Okay, let's move on to Friday. We've got 3 more Grade 1s here. Triumph Hurdle, of course, kicks things off. Now then, Tritonic, the 9-4 favourite, but much, much bigger than that in the Ben Linfoot anti-post betting list. What price did you take on him, Ben?
Well, I have had several poor anti-post bets for Cheltenham, but the one shining light is Tritonic, who I backed earlier in the season after he won at Ascot. So we've got a nice price on him. I am not sure if I'd advise him now at 9-4. I think he's got an outstanding chance, and I think there's lots more to come from him as well. I just look at that Adonis last time and the way he finished his race. I mean, he won by 10 lengths and he could have won by 15. He was just brilliant. So I think there's more to come. Obviously, Zana here could be a formidable rival. It looks like another superb head-to-head in a week of many superb head-to-heads. I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I mean, he's the best flat horse Alan King's had over jumps, isn't he? 99 rated on the flat. He looks like he's a better hurdler already. I think the extra furlong and a half in the Triumph's really going to suit him. It's not much of a jumping test either, is it? Really, the Triumph on that course. There's a long run to the last, isn't there? So
yeah,
I don't think Zanaheer's chief weapons are going to trouble Tritonic. Is what I'm thinking. But it's what I'm talking myself into anyway. So yeah, I do like him. He's a horse with immense potential.
Any different thoughts on that, Dan? There's Quilixios, of course, Adagio.
No, I'm firmly in this Tritonic camp. I remember tweeting the owner after Royal Ascot, and I said, "Game hurdling, he'd be favourite for the Triumph." Now it's the noise at the time was that he wouldn't be going for the race, and they might keep him for the Supreme next season. But they've taken the right step, and it's not just Alan. It's the fact it's Alan King's best horse to go jumping. He'll be the best flat horse that's gone jumping all season, because those horses just don't go hurdling anymore. And the fact he was McNeil's on the flat for a dual-purpose trainer has meant that they're happy to keep him in that yard and have a crack at hurdling with him. And I know he might be 20, 30 pounds better than the bog standard juvenile hurdler. And the improvement from first run to second over hurdles is there for all to see. I thought he did ridiculously well first time out, actually, because Castle Olympia nearly nicked that. And he had to sustain his run as he did was pretty exceptional, I thought. Before he went hurdling, he looked like the archetypal, classic, good quality juvenile. I mean, top quality juvenile, really. Stays so well on the flat. Loads of form in the hurly-burly of these big competitive handicaps, including that Royal Ascot one. Loads of size to him. But the step forward from first run to second, beating Casalupi by an extra 9 lengths without Heskin really moving much on him. And he sprinted up the running in a faster time. And it's a little over a furlong. He was about a second quicker on the running than the winner of the Duffcut Cape Gentleman, an Irish Says winner, had been earlier in the day. And he was doing it pretty much under his own power. I mean, it was a phenomenal display of speed. And I just struggle to believe that they can be a better juvenile than him. And maybe Zana here is this freak, but in terms of box ticking, who's got the best platform, who's in the right yard, that sort of thing. I think in percentage terms, it's far more likely that he's the one to beat rather than Zana here.
It's great to see. It's great to see a 100-rated flat horse go over hurdles, isn't it? We don't see them these days. Don't see many because of the international program on the flat and horses going abroad and even the all-weather. You just don't see these sort of horses go over hurdles, and it's great to see. I can't think, was Nicholas Canyon a 100-rated flat horse who won at Cheltenham?
Yeah.
There's not many, is there?
Nicholas Canyon. There aren't, no.
I mean,
Joseph's had a fair few, and none of them have really taken to it that well. Obviously, Thingy, the horse who won the Triumph, whose name escapes me now, a few years ago when Joseph was basically training, it wasn't he under Aiden's name. What was he called?
Right,
that one who became disappointing. But yeah, it is a rarity. I remember a few years ago, my uncle owned a horse called, in partnership with his friend Ed, owned a horse called Allied Powers with Michael Bell. Really good middle distance flat operator. And they were going to go hurdling or sell him to go hurdling, but they went to season too late, I think, when he was 6. But even that idea doesn't seem to occur to any owners now, that that they'd even buy a horse like that. He'd be snapped up by Australia.
Not even my favourite all-time anti-post bet or bets was 100 rated when he switched from the flat to win the champion hurdle, Alderbrook. 90-ish, was he? About 90? 92 maybe, something like that. Crebensis, what was he? He'd have been something similar, wouldn't he? In the 90s, I would have thought. Anyway.
Ivanovic Gorbatov, I've just remembered it, sorry.
Yes.
That's it.
That was the Triumph horse, wasn't it?
Yeah. He did become disappointing, didn't he? Okay, so the three of us for Tritonic in the Triumph. Albert Bartlett, let's whiz through this one because, it's been a graveyard for favourites plenty of times over the years and some big price winners. It's consistently, if you like, average SP, the biggest of the grade ones during the week, isn't it? I like Ala Philippe here, I've got to say. Just like the way that he dotted up at Haydock, wasn't it, in that grade 2 contest, trial for this back in February, 3 from 4 over hurdles, and I think he's a working men's price at double figures, 12-1, and I'd be very concerned in taking him on with taking on Tory Graph, who I think has got a big chance as well, shorter in the market. What about you two boys? Ben, start us off.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear some bullishness from Andy Stewart today regarding Barbados Bucks. He's saying that Harry Cobden told him he's improved a stone since he last run, which is nice to hear. He's got a good chance, hasn't he? He's run 3 times and did it well under a penalty last time at Kempton. So he's on the radar. I like Fakira, who's got bags of experience from the Gordon Elliott now, Denise Sneezy Foster Yard in Ireland. He should improve, I think, going up in trip after his good running on 4th over 2.6 at the Dublin Racing Festival, and he's got that experience that you look for in an Albert Bartlett.
It looks like he does nothing but stay, doesn't he? As well, it's always that gives that impression.
That's what you need, don't you? It's quite a grueling race for novices. You want that experience with a horse that just looks to have stamina in abundance, and I think he ticks that box more than most.
Dan?
I'm not mega sold on this race generally. I do like Adramel as a horse. I think he'll improve for the trip. I thought he won at Warwick. I thought he was taking the mickey all the way around, really. I think he was always doing enough. His earlier defeat of Grumpy Charlie in the Haydock Mud, absolutely optimum conditions for Grumpy Charlie. Reads well now. That horse has done nothing but improve since and has won a handicap off a lofty figure. So Adramel will probably top of my list in here. Duffel Coat, I don't know the plans. Maybe Ben's heard a bit more now about Duffel Coat, but it's interesting that he's in here because he looks an absolutely thorough stayer at 2 miles.
And you can't think of many 4-year-olds that have had a go.
No, you can't. No, he would have to be a freak. He's getting £9. I mean, you'd have to be a real freak of a 4-year-old to win an Albert Bartlett, wouldn't you? I mean, it'd be obscene, really. But the fact they're entering him does suggest his shape, really. I mean, that race against Adagio, he was flat out, 2 out on the long run between the last 2, and he really motored late on. He might just be a bit green still, which has made it look a bit deceptive that he's a bit slow. Maybe he isn't quite that slow, but he's an intriguing runner for a horse that looks a stayer to me.
I'd like to see it. It'd be nice to see a 4-year-old have a go at this and just have a look at the weight.
Yeah, you just want to see different things, don't you? I mean,
yeah.
That it's like Altio having a crack at 2.5, and like, well, why not stick with it for once? I mean, just try something slightly different with these horses.
Absolutely.
So, just to summarise, if he ran in the race, Dan, you'd be at least interested in taking a closer look at Duffel Coat.
Yeah, but Adramel primarily strikes me as a real Albert Bartlett type. Okay, if the stable form is a concern, though, that yard appears to have gone really off the boil. Tom Lacey, I don't know why, but they've gone quiet.
And Fakira for Ben and Alain Philippe, double figures for me. Tory Graph, the one that I'd fear most. And then the big one, the blue ribbon, the Gold Cup. Alboom Photo, trying to complete a hat-trick, and he's not quite gone down the same geographical route as Best Mate did, but the same sort of programme for the last few years of, blinking, you'll miss him because you don't see him too much. Is that going to enable him to prove good enough to lift it for a 3rd time, Dan?
Well, what it does do, I think, Doidge, it means that he's not as exposed a horse as you might anticipate a horse trying to have his 3rd crack at a Gold Cup. And Best Mate was probably in a similar category. I think you have to make him favourite because of the been there, done that, got the T-shirt vibe. But I think the Gold Cup is a race. He's obviously falls into that camp, but it's a race that has specialists in it. You get very good 3-milers, and then you get Gold Cup horses. And for me, the race most akin to a Gold Cup this season in terms of the examination was that rearranged Cotswold Chase that Native River won. It all depends on the ground, really. If it's good to soft, I think he'll still be okay, because it will test stamina still, and he'll get an aggressive ride. And the time he ran in a Gold Cup Native River away from bad ground, he had a disastrous start and then was really rushed up by Johnson to get to the front, and he probably burst him a little bit. I think if in a strange in a way, I don't see loads of. There's no Coneygree that's definitely going to go forward there. I think there's a chance that Native River could get to dictate, and he's a double-figure price. Very rarely runs a bad race. The Tizard horse's troubles have been well documented, but he's one who's looked a little immune to it. Silly race at Aintree first time out, and then seeing off the likes of Bristol Demay, and the rest of them, they were Coast Guard territory, weren't they? They were that far behind. No, I didn't know where they were entering the straight, and he just kept rolling on as he does. So I think I'd back him each way and hope either the ground worsens and there's a bit of watering throughout the week, and he'll get something on the soft side of good.
Okay. Ben?
Well, it's not always won by a classy horse, this race, is it? You look back down the years and you look at horses like Lord Windermere and Synchronised, and I've never backed that type of horse. Perhaps I should, but I always look for a classy horse in the Gold Cup. I always want a horse that's got gears, rightly or wrongly. And the one that I come down on this year, I think Album Photo has got a fantastic chance, because he's won 2 very different Gold Cups, hasn't he? 2 years ago, it was quite a strong gallop, and last year he won off a muddling pace. And he did really well to win last year. There was 7 jumping the last that could have won, and he's toughed it out in good style. So he's got a lot going for him, Album Photo, obviously. Willie Mullins, creature of habit, doing exactly what he's done the last 2 years again. And I think he's a genuine 175 horse, and he's the one to beat. But I don't think he's got loads in hand on the up-and-comers snapping at his heels. And I'd put A. Plutard in that bracket, and he's the one that I'm coming down on. When you look at when he beat Chacon Poursoir over 2-1 at Leopardstown, he's got those gears, and he reminds me of Sizing John, who was in Douvan's shadow for so long, and then stepped up in trip and won the Gold Cup and won quite a few Grade 1s over this sort of distance. And A. Plutard just reminds me of him. And the way he won the Savills Chase was a horse that is blessed with plenty of stamina, because it's a tough track, Leopardstown. It was a strong gallop. It was testing ground, and he won going away at the end, like a horse that thrive over 3-2 in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. So I'm looking at him, the way he won that year at the festival. It's just all these little clues and hints that we've got a Gold Cup horse on our hands in A. Plutard for Henry de Bromhead. So he's the one I've come down on.
Yeah, and sorry to not be original, but I'm with you in the sense that I've taken on Album Photo for the last 2 years, a bit like I did with Best Mate. So you know where this is going to go. So yeah, I just think take him on again, sort of thing. Try and find something to beat him, and that one for me. And I take what you're saying, Dan, because I love the horse, Native River, and he could run an absolute biggie and still make the frame. But A. Plutard, in terms of trying to find a winner against the favourite, would be my idea. If you're good enough, if you've got the speed to beat a Chacon Poursoir as he did last year, it's not that long, 14 months or 15 months, whatever it is, since he was good enough to beat him over 2 miles and a furlong. But I think he certainly proved to me in the Savills that he's got bags of stamina. So if he's got both pace and the ability to stay, then that makes up into the sort of horse who's going to be bang there come the end of the Gold Cup. So it'll do for me this year. A. Plutard.
What do we think of Champ? He's a bit of a head
we're not even mentioning him, have we?
He's got, the way that he returned in the game spirit was full of promise, wasn't it?
Yeah, my only thing with him was...
What do you think, Dan?
Well, the market, I just felt it was a bit of a market overreaction. I mean, did that performance justify 12-1 into 9-2? That was my only thought, that maybe he'd gone skinny enough now. I still don't think he's a copper bottom stayer, despite that unbelievable out of the fire job in the RSA. He never looked a thorough stayer to me prior to last season, and he's obviously got the toe to be competitive in a game spirit, which is pretty freakish for a staying type. I thought he was a bit underpriced now.
Don't forget, in the RSA, they only have to go up that hill twice during the race, don't they? Not the 3 times. I know they're doing it at the start of a Gold Cup, but still, they've still got to climb it for a 3rd time to get to the finish. Okay, so we've done the Grade 1 boys. We've got the shoulder races to think about and the handicaps. But I think rather than just go handicap, etc., we'll just get your collective thoughts on anything that you fancy. And I know there's still a lot of horses, runners to be declared, but anything that's caught your eye as something that's particularly well handicapped that you've been looking forward to seeing running at the festival.
Sage Advice, I quite like in the Boodles, the Fred Winter, the Dr. Richard Newland. Looked really impressive on hurdling debut at Kempton earlier in the season. Ran really well at Warwick behind one of Dan Skelton's. The name just has disappeared from my memory. But he franked the form anyway, and he could be well treated on that line of form off the mark of 1:27. And he had a bit of a qualifying run last time in a 3-runner race in heavy ground, and I'd just stick a line through that. I think he's interesting off a mark that's probably going to be towards the bottom of the weights. Sage Advice in the Fred Winter. And finally, Champagne Gold in the county for Henry de Bromhead. Just a quick, rapidly improving horse. And that second at the Dublin Racing Festival, he got mugged a little bit. I thought he looked like he was going to come and win that race that day. It's always solid form, that race. I think he's £5 higher than his Irish mark, 144. Looks absolutely fine for him. He could be better than a handicapper in time. And I think a strongly run county is exactly what this horse needs.
Dan, anything from you?
Biggest price of the lot would be County Hurdle again. I'd go for Strong Glance for Ollie Murphy and Aidan Coleman. And for me, the angle is 2 miles on good ground, potentially turning this horse inside out. And I don't think there's a horse with more ability than him in this field. For him to do what he's done in those Lingfield Jumpers bumpers, I know they're on the Lingfield Jumpers bumpers, but I've watched enough racing around Lingfield's flat course to know that horses don't go from last to first up the inside at Lingfield and win races. And he's done it twice in a row. Giving weight last time to beat the judge, he was giving him £6 and they pulled 10 lengths clear of the rest. Beat the judge as a really solid 140 horse. His best running handicap hurdles this season was that second at Aintree where I thought he got outstayed by Giacomo. That was 2.5. Heavy ground, no good to him. In the Great Wood, where he didn't figure. But I think the 2 Jumpers Bumpers runs suggest to me that all the ability is still there that he had in his earlier days. And I think if he's going to show it, he's going to show it 2 miles on decent ground, which hopefully he'll get this week. And he's 33, as I've seen. And particularly when you're probably going to be falling over themselves to give you 6 and 7 places in that race on the day. I mean, as long as he doesn't fall over, I think he'll be back. I can sort of see perfect smuggling ride up the inside, cut through horses and hopefully be delivered late so he doesn't realise he's had a race.
And another that's double entered, I'm not sure, couldn't find anything specific, and you two may be able to point me straight if you've heard anything lately, but 50 Ball for Gary Moore, who's down in both the County and the Coral Cup. I think he's interested in both, to be honest with you. But for me, I'd probably be most interested if he ran in the County, actually. I think he's a strong stayer. He's going to get the pace he wants. And Gary Moore in sort of big field handicap hurdles over the years, you might have made a fair profit if you'd have followed some of his.
I haven't necessarily. He looks more of a 2 miler to me. I mean, I think he's a quick horse. He looked that in the Betfair. I don't, as you say, he's got so many entries. But that's the handy thing about not running no bet, isn't it? You can get your cash back.
So 50 Ball. Last one I'm going to put up. Okay, folks, I think we're done and dusted